We do things that we think are going to resolve the problems, but actually we're just digging the hole bigger. And the five most common holes that we can dig is what I'm going to be talking about with John, who is another member of the Marshall Method team. So, John, we've got five losing strategies. These are ones that we see in the counselling room all the time,
Mm.
but they don't work. So, let's go through them. What's the first one?
Well, I think the first one is that where we get caught in being right. So who's right and who's wrong?
I'm right and you're wrong.
And that is a problem because I stop listening straight away and I want to prove that I'm right and you're wrong.
Oh, no, you're not. I'm right and you're wrong.
But if we could move to, I wonder why you're feeling that way, we could shift the tone of the conversation.
Now, I've actually stopped allowing couples to have an I'm right and you're wrong fight because I've reached the point I'm just too old to listen to it. I used to think maybe if you gave them 20 minutes of it, they might resolve it, but I've just lost patience and I say, that's I'm right and you're wrong, and let's find another way of doing it. Have you got more patience than I have?
I have had in the past, but I've had exactly the same experience as you. No matter how long you give them, this never goes anywhere.
Yeah. And when you say to, can we find another way of doing this? What happens?
Well, I think they need some ideas about what to do, and some of the things that I like work really well is one, let's slow down because one thing is when we get into I'm right, you're wrong, things go pace up very quickly and it turns into a fight. Whereas who's going to win? And it's not about winning and losing. It's about slowing down and thinking about what are we feeling and what do you really want.
I like the idea of looking at the feelings behind this. So, what's the second losing strategy?
Well, it's sort of similar, but it's like it's controlling your partner. So only if you did X, everything would be fine.
Yeah, there's a very easy solution. I can think of 30 things that you can do differently. How many can I think of for myself? Probably giving up is normally the only strategy.
Again, I think it's about changing the focus. So rather, because really what's underlying that is you're the problem and I'm not the problem. But if we try and move away from that idea that anyone is the problem and try and move to what is it we'd really like to happen and how could we communicate about it, there's a bit more hope in that.
Yeah, and I think if each partner thinks, what could I do differently? Because the only person behavior we can change is our own. So what can I do differently begins to get us away from that. It would all be right if only you would.
And this is very powerful as well because as you start to do something different that is well received by your partner, it encourages them maybe to copy your behaviour.
And what's the third thing?
It's an interesting one. It's unbridled self expression. That is, I'm going to tell you what I feel and you're going to listen and I'm going to tell you again and again and again.
Which sort of, as a therapist, we want people to express themselves. So, what's the difference between expressing yourself and unbridled self expression?
I think it's because it's you're pushing that point home so hard, and there isn't any space for somebody to really hear you, to really slow down and listen.
And somehow, the bigger the feeling, the more overwhelming it becomes in the room almost.
It does, and I think it has that same potential of effect of that I'm feeling this because of you rather than I'm just feeling this.
Ah, right. So that actually, if it's sort of coming as a normal self-expression, I'm feeling angry, is quite different from me sort of acting out the anger because I'm doing it in an unbridled kind of way.
Yes, because it's okay to feel angry, but if I'm saying I'm angry, you've made me angry because da, 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 and you always do da, 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 that's a blocking the communication. That's blocking the closeness between the two of you.
And what's the next one?
So the next one's retaliation, which is you've done this, so I'm going to do that.
And we sort of know it's not going to work, but it's incredibly tempting because we're hurt.
And actually, it's almost like a perverse way of trying to heal something, but it doesn't work.
How is it a perverse way of trying to heal something?
I think it's a perverse way of trying to heal it because you are reaching for the problem, but you're sort of like, because you've done this, I'm going to do it back to you. I'm going to show you where I'm hurting, but you do it in such a way that shuts the other person down, makes them defensive.
Let me show you how it hurts by actually giving you the same pain. And I suppose there is a communality of pain, but it's actually going to push you further apart, even though in a perverse way it's trying to get a bit closer. And the final one is shutting down. I have to say, this is one I'm afraid to say I can do myself sometimes. What are you like with this one?
I am not a shutting down. Actually, shutting down would make me go for, right, I'm going in, and you probably hear a lot about what I was feeling again and again. And that's interesting because these things, they trigger off each other. There is often that kind of dynamic of a withdrawer and a pursuit.
And once you actually understand the losing strategies that you're the most likely to do, because everybody's going to do one of those 5, you can immediately begin to recognize and say, oops, I'm in an old loop. It's a loop that doesn't work. And that wonderful question, what could I do differently?